Rich woman screams at man for touching Ferrari. Didn't know who he was. Acts of kindness. The morning sun rose quietly over a quiet street, lined with expensive cars. Among them sat a shiny red Ferrari, parked in front of a popular cafe that served the city's wealthiest. People came here to show off, to be seen, to feel important. But behind the glass windows of the cafe, no one noticed a man standing by the Ferrari. He looked like any other stranger, his black hoodie old but clean, his jeans a little faded, his hands stuffed deep into his pockets to warm them from the early chill. His name was Keanu. To the world he was famous, but today he wanted to be invisible. His days of cameras and flashing lights often felt far away when he did this. Walking alone, no entourage, just the soft shuffle of his boots on the sidewalk. He always liked to see life up close, to remind himself what mattered. He never thought this morning would test his patience and kindness in such an unexpected way. Keanu leaned closer to the Ferrari, not to admire its expensive paint, but to pick up a small kitten that had crawled under its bumper. He had heard the tiny mew, so soft it almost vanished into the sound of cars passing by. The kitten was shivering, stuck, its fur dusty from the street. Keanu bent down, carefully reaching under the car. His fingers brushed the kitten's fur, trying not to frighten it. The kitten clung to the metal, not understanding he was there. To help. Inside the cafe, a woman named Clara sipped her morning coffee. Clara loved her Ferrari more than anything she owned. To her, it was not just a car. It was proof she was somebody important, somebody untouchable. She watched the man in the hoodie from the corner of her eye, her lips curling into a sharp sneer. Who did he think he was, touching her car, scratching her paint? No one had the right to go near it. Her pride bubbled into anger. She stood, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she marched outside. Keanu finally cradled the kitten in his hands, whispering gentle words, trying to calm its tiny heart. He didn't hear Clara until she was right beside him, her perfume sharp, her voice sharper. "Get away from my car. How dare you touch my Ferrari?" Her words exploded into the morning like thunder, drawing eyes from nearby tables. People turned to watch, phones already sliding out of pockets to record the drama. Clara's voice rose higher with each breath. "Do you even know how much this car costs? You people think you can just touch anything you want." Keanu looked up, startled. The kitten now safe against his chest. He tried to explain, but Clara didn't want to hear it. Her words dripped with poison, each syllable punching the air. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at him, eyes blazing with the thrill of putting someone lesser in his place. "Security. Someone call security," she screamed. "This man is trying to steal from me. Look at him, all dirty and shady, hovering around my Ferrari." The kitten's tiny body trembled in Keanu's arms. He stroked its fur, his own heart heavy with the bitterness of her attack. People whispered behind him, some recognizing him, others not. He wondered how quick people were to judge when they didn't know the whole story. Still, he stayed, calm, his eyes soft but strong as they met Clara's. "I wasn't trying to hurt your car," he said, his voice low but steady. "There was a kitten stuck under it. I didn't want it to get run over." Clara laughed, a sharp, cold sound. "Don't lie. You think I'm stupid. You people always have excuses. Do you even have money to pay if you scratch my Ferrari?" Keanu wanted to tell her who he was. He wanted to reveal that he could buy 10 of her cars and not blink. But deep inside, he knew that would only feed her pride. So he stayed quiet, his kindness a shield stronger than any insult. He focused on the kitten, feeling its warmth calm him. The crowd around them grew bigger, their phones recording every word, every glare, every ounce of Clara's rage. An old man nearby stepped forward, clearing his throat. He had seen what Keanu did, how careful he had been, how gentle. "Miss, he's telling the truth," the old man said. "There really was a kitten. He saved it. Look at him." Clara turned on the old man, ready to spit her anger on him too. "Mind your business," she snapped. "This is my car, my property. No one touches it without permission." Keanu knew then that nothing he said would change her mind. But his heart hurt, not for himself, but for her. How empty a life must be to scream over a car while a tiny life almost died under it. The kitten purred softly now, pressing its nose into Keanu's jacket. Trusting him completely, he knew he couldn't just walk away yet. He had to make sure the kitten was safe. Security finally arrived. Two young guards in crisp uniforms. They looked at Keanu, then at Clara, then at the growing crowd. Clara immediately spun her version of the story, painting herself as the victim, the wealthy woman attacked by a stranger. Her voice rose and fell in practice drama. Each word and act meant to shame Keanu further. But one of the guards knew Keanu. He had seen him once at a charity event. The same calm eyes, the same gentle way he spoke to people no one else noticed. The guard stepped closer, lowering his voice so Clara wouldn't hear. "Sir, you're KeanuReeves, aren't you?" Keanu only nodded, his finger scratching behind the kitten's ear. "Please don't tell her," he whispered. "Just help me find a safe place for this little one." The guard looked at him with new respect, torn between doing his job and honoring the quiet humility of the man before him. He nodded back, then turned to Clara. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "there was a kitten. This gentleman was just helping. There's no damage to your car." Clara's face twisted, her anger burning hotter. "I don't care. I want him banned from this cafe. People like him shouldn't be allowed near us. They bring nothing but trouble." Keanu finally stood, the kitten now nestled inside his jacket for warmth. He looked at Clara one last time, not with hate, but with sadness. Sometimes we care so much about what shines on the outside that we forget what's dying underneath. He said softly. She didn't hear him, or maybe she chose not to. The guards stepped back, clearing the path for him. The people around them watched in silence, their phones still recording. Some already realizing they were witnessing a story that would spread far and wide. As Keanu walked away, the kitten safe in his arms, he didn't feel anger. He felt hope, because he knew that one small act of kindness, no matter how small, could still grow roots in the coldest ground. And in that moment, the man who seemed invisible reminded everyone that true worth is never parked on a street, but carried quietly. In the heart, *rich woman screams at man for touching Ferrari. Didn't know who he was. *Kindness. Keanu stepped away from the cafe, the kitten hidden inside his jacket, its tiny purrs vibrating softly against his chest. Every step he took felt heavy, not because Clara's words hurt him, but because he had seen that kind of anger before, the kind that grows when someone's heart forgets what kindness feels like. The city around him hummed with life. Cars passed by, people hurried along the sidewalks, and no one knew that the man they brushed shoulders with was the same man millions loved on the screen. Today, he was just another stranger carrying a fragile life close to his heart. He walked a few blocks until he found a small vet clinic tucked between two tall buildings. The sign above the door was faded, but the warmth inside glowed through the glass. He pushed the door open, a little bell above it jingling like a small song. The receptionist looked up, her tired eyes softening when she saw the kitten peeking out of Keanu's jacket. "Oh, you poor thing," she whispered, coming around the counter. Her name tag said Lucy. She reached for the kitten, but the little one wouldn't let go of Keanu's shirt. Lucy smiled. "Seems like it trusts you more than anyone." Keanu smiled back, the weight in his chest lifting just a bit. "I found it under a car. It was stuck, freezing." Lucy nodded, taking the kitten carefully. "You did the right thing. We'll check it out. Make sure it's healthy. Do you want to stay?" Keanu glanced at the chairs lined up against the wall, each one covered in old magazines. "Yes, I'll wait." As Lucy carried the kitten away, Keanu sat down. For a moment, he closed his eyes, letting the warmth of the room melt. The coldness Clara's words had left behind. His mind drifted back to when he was young, living on the streets for a while, feeling invisible in a world that only looked at people who had something shiny to offer. He knew what it was like to feel small, to feel like you didn't matter, because you didn't have enough. Maybe that's why he always tried to help, in ways that never made the news. Time passed slowly in that tiny clinic. People came and went, an old woman with her lame dog, a father and daughter holding a box that meowed softly, a young boy crying because his rabbit was sick. Keanu watched them all, seeing parts of his own past in their eyes. He wondered if Clara ever sat in a place like this, where real people hurt and healed without shiny cars or loud voices. Lucy returned after a while, the kitten tucked in a soft blanket. She placed it gently in Keanu's lap. "She's healthy," Lucy said. "Just scared, hungry, and a little cold. She'll need a warm home. Do you want to keep her?" Keanu looked down at the tiny face peeking up at him. Big eyes blinked slowly, trusting him completely. He wanted to say yes, but his life was filled with traveling, sets, and hotels. Not fair for such a small soul to live like that. "I can't," he said honestly, his voice catching. "But maybe someone here could give her what I can't." Lucy nodded, her smile kind. "We'll find her a good home. And thank you, not everyone would stop for a stray." Keanu shrugged, his eyes soft. "Sometimes the smallest lives need us the most." As he stood to leave, he gently kissed the kitten's tiny head. It mewed, its paw stretching out as if to hold onto him. Lucy saw the sadness in his eyes and placed her hand on his arm. "You've done more than enough." Walking back outside, the sun now high above, Keanu felt the weight lift. He breathed in the city air, letting it fill his lungs. But just as he stepped onto the sidewalk, he heard a voice behind him. "Hey, aren't you? You're KeanuReeves, right?" He turned to see the old man from the cafe, the same man who had defended him. The old man's eyes sparkled with recognition and a hint of guilt. "I'm sorry for what she did," he said. "People like her think money means everything." Keanu shook his head. "She's not the first, won't be the last. It's all right." The old man stepped closer, his voice dropping. "It's not all right. The world needs to see how people like her act. Maybe then they'll learn." Keanu smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I don't want revenge. I just hope she finds something real to hold onto. Cars lose their shine. Hearts shouldn't." The old man nodded slowly. "You know, someone filmed the whole thing. It's already online. People are talking. Maybe she'll learn something after all." Keanu paused, feeling the weight of those words. He hadn't meant to teach a lesson. He had only meant to save a tiny life. But maybe, sometimes the universe worked in ways he couldn't control. He thanked the old man, shaking his hand before walking down the street. The city seemed a little softer now. He didn't know where he was going yet, but he trusted that kindness would guide him, the same way it always did. As he crossed at the lights, he wondered what Clara was doing now. Was she still at the cafe, bragging about her car, or was she watching herself on someone's phone? Seeing her anger played back like a mirror she couldn't escape. Some lessons come softly, others roar like thunder. For Keanu, it never mattered. What mattered was doing what was right, even when no one was watching. And somewhere behind him, in that little vet clinic, a kitten slept safely because one man chose kindness over pride. News spreads fast in a city that loves gossip. By that afternoon, Clara's angry face was all over social media. Clips showed her shouting at a man in a simple hoodie, calling him names, threatening him with security. At first, many people didn't know who the man was, just a stranger, trying to help a kitten. But as the video went viral, people began to recognize the calm eyes, the gentle voice, the kindness that never needed a camera. People saw that the man was KeanuReeves. They watched the video over and over, shaking their heads at the woman who screamed about her Ferrari like it was made of gold. Clara sat in her living room, her hands shaking as she scrolled through the comments. Words like spoiled, rude, cruel flashed across her screen. Her friends messaged her, some telling her to stay quiet, others telling her to post an apology. But Clara didn't believe she was wrong. In her mind, that car was her life's pride. How could a man, any man, think it was okay to touch it? She threw her phone across the couch, its bright screen lighting up with new messages every second. She felt trapped, but her anger still burned hotter than her shame. She didn't know that her outburst had started something bigger than herself. She didn't know how many people were now defending the man she had insulted. Meanwhile, Keanu sat alone in his small apartment that night. He had cooked himself a simple meal, soup and bread, the same meal he made when he needed to feel grounded. He had no idea how big the story had grown. His phone buzzed again and again, but he ignored it, wanting just a moment of peace. He thought about the kitten, warm and safe now, and that made him smile. Suddenly, a knock came at his door. At first, he thought it might be a friend, but when he opened it, he found Lucy, the vet's receptionist, standing there with a shy smile. In her arms was the tiny kitten, wrapped in a soft blanket. "I'm sorry to come so late," Lucy said softly, "but I thought you'd want to know." The kitten wouldn't stop crying. She kept scratching at her cage. "Meowing for you." Keanu stepped aside, letting Lucy in. He reached for the kitten, who immediately curled up in his arms like she had found her true home. Keanu looked at Lucy, his eyes warm with gratitude. "I thought I wasn't the right person for her," he said. Lucy shook her head, sitting on the edge of his couch. "Sometimes we don't choose them, they choose us. Maybe you're exactly who she needs." Keanu stroked the kitten's fur, feeling its tiny heartbeat steady against his palm. For a moment, the noise of the world outside vanished. He remembered how his mother used to tell him that the smallest souls could sometimes heal the biggest wounds. Lucy watched him with gentle eyes. "People are talking about what happened. They know it was you. They're calling you a hero." Keanu shrugged, a tired smile tugging at his lips. "I'm no hero. I just did what anyone should do." Lucy laughed softly. "You'd be surprised. How many people wouldn't?" Keanu looked at the kitten, then back at Lucy. "Do you think she has a name?" Lucy tilted her head, thinking, "How about Hope? She's small, but she reminds people that kindness is still alive." Keanu repeated the name under his breath. "Hope," he smiled, feeling something in his chest unlock. "I like that." The kitten purred louder, as if she understood she had finally found her place. As the night grew deeper, Lucy left, promising to bring supplies the next day. Keanu sat on his couch with Hope curled against his chest, her soft breaths lulling him into a calm he hadn't felt in weeks. Outside, the city lights flickered like distant stars. He knew the world was watching now, but in that quiet moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was the life in his arms, the warmth he felt, and the small spark of change he hoped would touch even the coldest hearts. And somewhere across the city, Clara lay awake in her huge bed, her phone lighting up with messages she could no longer ignore. Each one chipped away at her pride, forcing her to look at herself in a mirror she had never dared to hold up before. The night was far from over. For some, it was the start of a lesson. For others, it was proof that one simple act of kindness could echo louder than any angry voice ever could. Clara woke up the next morning to a storm she could no longer control. Her face was on every screen, not in the way she had always dreamed. Not for her beauty or her expensive life, but for the way she had screamed at a stranger who turned out to be a beloved man. Her name trended on every app, not as a sign of fame but as a warning. People she once called friends stopped answering her calls. Companies she hoped to work with cut her off. She tried to type an apology, but every word felt fake, because deep down she still felt like she was right. She sat in her kitchen, staring at her untouched breakfast, her phone buzzing non-stop. One video caught her eye. It showed Keanu walking away with the kitten, his hands gentle, his voice calm. The video froze on his face, those kind eyes that had not shouted back at her or called her names. For a second, Clara saw something she didn't want to see, a reflection of herself, small and petty, wrapped in cold metal pride. Meanwhile, Keanu's apartment felt warmer than ever. Hope, the kitten, had settled in like she'd always belonged there. She followed him everywhere, pawing at his feet when he made his morning tea, curling on his lap while he read a book. Every tiny purr reminded him that the smallest acts really did matter. He sat by the window, watching the city wake up, his phone now full of messages from reporters and fans, but he didn't want the attention. He wanted people to remember the lesson, not his name. A knock on the door broke his thoughts. When he opened it, he was surprised to see the old man from the cafe again, standing there with a small bag of groceries and a shy smile. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by," the old man said. "I thought maybe you and that little one could use some extra food." Keanu stepped aside, moved by the man's kindness. They sat together, sharing a simple meal. Hope jumped between them, making the old man laugh. For a while they talked about nothing and everything, about how life could surprise you, how anger could blind good people, and how kindness could heal wounds deeper than money could ever touch. The old man looked at Keanu, his eyes serious, but gentle. You know, people see what you did. They're listening now. Maybe this is your chance to remind them that being kind is worth more than all the cars in the world. Keanu nodded. I don't want to lecture people. I just want to show them. The old man smiled, pointing at Hope, who had fallen asleep, her tiny paws stretched out like she owned the whole couch. Sometimes showing is all it takes. While they talked, Clara sat alone in her fancy living room. She opened her laptop, her hands trembling as she searched for Keanu's old interviews, reading about his quiet charity work, his secret visits to hospitals, his donations that no one ever knew about. Every line she read felt like a knife carving through her pride. She realized how small her world looked compared to his. She thought about her Ferrari, parked in her spotless garage. It shone under perfect lights, but somehow it looked emptier than ever before. She touched her keys, remembering how proud she felt when she bought it. Now, that pride felt hollow. In the days that followed, the video continued to spread. Strangers debated online about wealth and respect, about pride and kindness. Some defended Clara, saying everyone had a bad day. Others said her anger was more than just a bad day. It was a symptom of a heart that had lost touch with what really matters. No matter what they said, the truth was clear. The world had seen the difference between someone who screamed to protect a car and someone who bent down in the cold to save a tiny life. Keanu watched it all from a distance. He turned down every interview request, every talk show invitation. He didn't want to be the hero of someone's gossip headline. He just wanted people to remember that anyone, rich or poor, known or unknown, could choose to be kind. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the buildings, Keanu heard another knock. He opened the door and froze. Standing there was Clara, her eyes puffy and red, her hands clinging to the straps of her designer bag like it was her last shield. She looked smaller than he remembered, her shoulders hunched, her voice barely a whisper. Can I come in? She asked. Hope peeked out from behind Keanu's leg, her tiny tail flicking curiously. Keanu stepped aside, nodding silently. Clara stepped in, looking around the small, warm space, so different from her cold, polished mansion. She saw the kitten curled on a blanket, a bowl of simple soup on the table. An old movie paused on the screen. None of it was fancy, but it felt more real than anything she had owned. She turned to Keanu, her voice shaking. I'm sorry, she said, the words heavy as they left her lips. I was so angry. I didn't see what you were really doing. Keanu didn't rush to comfort her. He waited, letting the silence do what his words couldn't. Clara sank onto the couch, her eyes locked on Hope, who mewed softly, sensing the tension. I thought my car made me important, Clara whispered. But I've never felt so small. You didn't shout at me. You didn't shame me. And now everyone knows what I did. Keanu sat across from her, his hands folded, his voice calm. Sometimes life shows us what we need to see, even if it hurts. Tears welled in Clara's eyes. I don't know how to fix it. Keanu looked at her, his eyes warm but firm. You can't erase what happened, but you can choose what you do next. Outside, the city buzzed, the world still turning. But in that small room, two people sat facing each other. One learning that money couldn't buy forgiveness, the other proving that kindness could heal even the deepest cracks in a hardened heart. Hope jumped onto Clara's lap, her tiny purr, filling the quiet room like a promise that maybe, just maybe, people could change. The room felt heavy with silence as Clara sat there, her hand gently resting on Hope's tiny back. The kitten's soft purr was the only sound between them, like a small reminder that life could still be warm if one chose to hold it gently. Keanu watched Clara, his eyes calm but searching. He could see the storm inside her, pride battling with guilt, shame wrestling with the need to change. It was the same storm he had faced in himself so many times when life threw pain his way. Clara's fingers traced the pattern on Hope's fur, her nails no longer sharp with anger but soft with regret. I don't know who I am anymore, she whispered, her eyes fixed on the little life that trusted her without question for so long. I thought if I looked perfect, if I owned the best, people would respect me. Keanu leaned back in his chair, his voice gentle but steady. "Respect doesn't live in things we buy. It lives in how we treat what we can't own." Her eyes lifted to meet his, tears brimming but not falling yet. "How do you live like that?" she asked. "How do you not let anger eat you when people push you, lie to you, betray you?" Keanu took a deep breath, his mind drifting back to his own memories, the betrayals, the losses, the nights he slept alone on a stranger's couch, the days he wondered if he mattered at all. He thought of the people who had judged him, written lies about him, laughed at him behind his back, and yet, here he was, not bitter, but softer for it. "It's not easy," he said honestly. "Every day I remind myself that being angry doesn't change what hurt me. It only changes me. Kindness is the only thing that gives pain somewhere to go." Clara looked down, her tears finally falling. She tried to wipe them away, embarrassed by her own weakness. But Keanu didn't look away. He let her feel the weight of it because he knew true change doesn't come when you hide your shame. It comes when you sit with it, breathe through it, and decide to be better. "People hate me now," Clara choked out. "They see me as this monster. They're right. I was awful to you. I didn't even know you. I didn't care." Keanu shook his head, his voice soft but sure. "You were awful to yourself first. People who scream like that are fighting something inside they're too afraid to face." The truth of his words settled into the small room like a warm blanket on a cold night. Hope stretched, pawing at Clara's hand, meowing for attention. Clara smiled through her tears, her fingers scratching under the kitten's chin. For the first time in a long while, she felt needed by something that didn't care about her money or her status. It just wanted her to be kind. "What do I do now?" Clara asked, her voice trembling. "How do I make this right?" Keanu leaned forward, Hope jumping onto his knee before hopping back onto Clara's lap like a bridge between them. "You start small. You stop worrying about what people think and do something that matters. Maybe you donate. Maybe you help someone who can't give you anything back. Maybe you sit with your own heart until you learn to listen to it." Clara swallowed, a fresh tear sliding down her cheek. "I don't even know where to begin." Keanu's smile was tired but true. "None of us do. That's what makes it real. The good thing is, you don't have to do it alone." Hope let out a soft mew, curling tighter against Clara's chest. For the first time, Clara didn't feel like the rich woman who had to prove she was better than everyone else. She just felt like a human being, small but capable of growing bigger on the inside. As the hours passed, they talked more, not about cars or money, but about the things that broke them and the things that saved them. Keanu shared pieces of his story, the nights he spent in empty hotel rooms, the days he carried grief so heavy it threatened to drown him. Clara listened, realizing that pain didn't care how much money you had in your pocket. It visited everyone the same. Before she left, Clara looked around Keanu's apartment. No gold chandeliers, no marble floors, just warmth, honesty, and the soft purr of a kitten who didn't care if you had millions or nothing at all. "Thank you," Clara said as she stood up, her voice steadier now, "for seeing me when I didn't deserve to be seen." Keanu only nodded. "Thank you for seeing yourself." She bent down, kissing Hope's tiny head. "Take care of him," she whispered to the kitten, her lips pulling into a sad smile. "He's one of the good ones." When Clara stepped out into the night, the city didn't feel as cold as it did the day before. She knew the world still judged her. She knew some people would never forgive her. But deep inside, she felt something new, not pride, but the first spark of humility. The tiny seed of a softer heart dot as she disappeared into the darkness. Keanu watched her go, Hope, curled in his arms like a promise that sometimes even the hardest hearts could learn to love again. Days turned into weeks, and the city slowly moved on to new stories. People found fresh gossip, fresh scandals, and Clara's outburst faded into the shadows of the internet. But for those who remembered, the story left something behind, a quiet reminder that what you do in a single moment can echo far beyond what you see. Clara kept her promise to herself. It wasn't easy. Every morning she woke up tempted to fall back into her old world, the world where she was powerful only because she was loud and rich. But every time she started to slip, she thought of the way Hope had curled up in her lap, trusting her without fear. She remembered the calm in Keanu's eyes when he said anger only changes you. Those words lived in her head like a lantern in the dark. She sold the Ferrari. People around her thought she was crazy. The dealer asked her 3 times if she was sure, running his finger over the glossy red paint as if to tempt her back into pride. But Clara signed the papers without looking back. She didn't want the car that made her feel big while her heart stayed small. With the money, she didn't buy another toy for herself. Instead, she started a small fund at the vet clinic where Lucy worked, the same place that had taken Hope. In that cold morning, she paid for stray animals to get care, for old pets to get new homes, for families to afford what they could not. She volunteered there too, cleaning cages, feeding animals, learning how to hold something fragile and give it warmth without expecting praise. She didn't do interviews. She didn't post photos online to show people she was good now. She did it quietly, the way Keanu had always done, kindness for its own sake, not for the shine it could buy her back. Meanwhile, Keanu's life went on as simple as ever. He still turned down reporters who begged for an exclusive. He didn't need to tell his side because the truth was already out there. His reward was Hope, the little kitten who had grown stronger every day. She followed him like a shadow. On movie sets, when he was allowed to bring her, curled at his feet when he read scripts, perched on his shoulder when he sat by his window and watched the world drift by. People who worked with him noticed the change, too. They saw how he looked at everyone, the same way he looked at that tiny kitten, like every life deserved to be held gently, like everyone, no matter how loud or proud, might be fighting something inside that needed a bit of kindness. One cold evening, as the first snow fell on the city, Keanu took Hope out for a walk. She wore a tiny sweater Lucy had whereupon for her. People stopped to smile at the sight. The famous actor with a kitten perched on his shoulder like a small queen. They didn't ask for autographs. They just nodded, some whispering thank you, as he passed, because they knew what he had done, even if he never asked for thanks. He walked past the cafe where it all began. The same tables, the same glass windows that had once reflected Clara's anger and his quiet patience. But this time, something was different. Clara was there, too, not shouting, not flaunting, but sitting at a small table outside with Lucy and the old man from that day. They were laughing softly, a box of pastries between them, their hands warm around paper cups of tea. Clara looked up and saw him. For a moment, they just stared, to people who had once been strangers caught in the worst of each other. She gave him a small nod, no pride in it, no shame either, just a quiet thank you that didn't need to be said out loud. Keanu nodded back, Hope's tiny purr vibrating against his neck. He kept walking, the snow crunching under his boots, the city lights flickering above like stars that hadn't given up yet. He knew the world would never be perfect. People would still judge, still shout, still forget what kindness looks like. But every now and then, someone would remember. Someone would bend down to save a tiny life, even if it meant being humiliated by those who couldn't see the bigger picture. As the snow fell, Keanu smiled. The smallest souls sometimes save the biggest hearts. And even a rich woman with a Ferrari could learn that some treasures don't shine on the outside. They grow quietly, warm and gentle, in the softest corners of the heart. Hope meowed, her tiny paw tapping his cheek like a reminder that his kindness still mattered. One life at a time. And so he walked on. No cameras, no screaming crowds, just a man, a kitten, and a lesson that would live longer than any headline ever could.